earlier this week in Virginia's 7th Congressional District in the race to replace the outgoing Democrat Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, there was a forum held in the 7th between the Democrat Eugene Vindman of famously of the Vindman clan, the let's impeach Trump by making up stuff. Let's mock when there's an assassination attempt on him. Those guys. It was between Eugene Vindman and Republican Derrick Anderson. And during that forum, there was some conversation, as you might expect, about the border. And Eugene Vindman was saying, well, that so-called bipartisan legislation that was presented earlier this year, which would, of course, only codify the border crisis, well, that was the solution. We should have done that. And a constituent in the 7th shouts out, well, why didn't you do something about this years ago, you Democrats? Why didn't the Democrats fix this years ago? And listen to how he treats his own constituent. Take a listen here. Stand by. Here it is.
They don't have the power of law. What was proposed in the spring was a law that would have fixed the problem permanently. So what he's saying is not true. Be quiet, I'm talking.
That's one of your constituents.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you for the advice. In any case,
Be quiet, he yells. He'd like to be the congressman so he can wield even more power over his constituents. Joining me now to discuss that bizarre moment is Derrick Anderson, the Republican nominee now running for Congress in Virginia's 7th. Derrick, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, good evening, Vince. Thanks for having me, brother. Always a pleasure.
So crazy to hear that. Normally, they wait till they have power to treat their constituents like garbage. Eugene Vindman's not waiting, is he?
No, and Vince, what was fascinating, and you probably heard it in the background when he screamed at one of our voters, one of our people, the people home to 7. I looked at him. I said, "That's one of our people. You need to respect him." And he flippantly, obviously, said, "Thanks for the advice." I mean, this is the kind of person we're dealing with, Vince. If that is not representative of who he would be, I mean, he'll be a far left radical member of Congress. The guy literally cares only about himself. I mean, that's the fact of the matter here. Look, he's focused on his past. He's got a revenge tour against President Trump, and we could go into the comments that his sister-in-law made on Sunday evening regarding the second assassination attempt against President Trump. But the guy literally is focused solely on his past and this revenge tour against President Trump and trying to remedy the Biden-Harris failed policies. Well, we were up there, Vince. We were talking about the future. We were talking about how we could fix our economy so that the average Virginia family isn't paying $1,100 a month. We were talking about how a quarter of Virginians right now are delinquent on their credit card bills because they're buying gas and groceries. We were talking about the fact that about 35% of people in Virginia are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
So we talked about how we were going to fix those problems. He didn't. Instead, he screamed at a constituent. We talked about the border issues. And what was interesting about that exchange is as you mentioned, Vince, he tried to go down the road of this bipartisan bill. And I looked him and the 10th Congressional District nominee, the Democrat nominee, in the face. I said, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could fix this right now, but they won't. They've failed at the border. They failed at the economy. They failed on our foreign policy, which we didn't talk about. But, this is what we have. This guy literally is focused on his past, and he only cares for himself. And look, I'm the homegrown guy. I'm the guy from Spotsylvania County. I grew up here, so I took specific anger with him on that when he was yelling at people from my district, my home district, and this guy had the nerve to do it.
So I guess he's comfortable just being known as the Trump derangement syndrome candidate, because that really is the defining feature of his public career here, whether it's being a part of trying to manufacture an impeachment of President Trump or his sister-in-law. This was crazy. Right after President Trump was nearly assassinated yet again this past weekend, Rachel Vindman came out publicly and expressed on X. She said, "No ears were harmed," she said, mockingly, making fun of President Trump's prior injuries. "Carry on with your Sunday afternoon." Did Eugene Vindman ever react to this? Did this come up at all in the candidate forum? Did he ever account for his family's behavior?
No, Vince. And so a little bit more on that story. So I was in downtown Fredericksburg when this all went down. And, you read the comments from my opponent, Yevgeny Vindman's sister-in-law. And then we asked my opponent to denounce it. And instead of denouncing it, his sister-in-law doubled and tripled down on the comments. And then his brother started to attack me. I mean, if this does not give the people in the 7th District an idea, I mean, they truly only care about themselves. I mean, they do not have they're totally out of touch. He is totally out of touch with this district. So again, this is my home district. This is where the district that raised me. So, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we win this seat so that we can get back to common sense and get things more affordable, get our communities safe, take care of our veterans, try to fix 95, which is a disaster today, right now, actually. But, Vince, that's what we're looking at right now, and that's what we're focused on. And it's truly disheartening to see how he's treated people in the 7th, the fact that he has no plan. When we were up on that forum stage, there was a lot of him talking about the past, reading from a giant binder. He brought a giant binder up on the stage. And I looked at him at the end of the forum and I told him, look, you can read from a binder all night long, but I actually care about the people here in the 7th because my mom's here, my cousins are here, my family, kids that I went to elementary through high school here. And he began to smirk at me and I told him, you can smirk all you want, but I actually care about these people. So it's important, Vince. Early voting started today, as you mentioned earlier. It is important for people to get out and vote. And when you go vote, grab 4 or 5 of your friends, your coworkers, anyone that you can, because we have to win this seat to keep our majority and get our country back on track.
Yeah, that's for sure. Tell me about your experience with early voting today. Give me a better sense of it. And what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, Vince. So we started the morning out in Greene County, so the furthest west, one of the more western counties in our district. So we started in Greene County, went to Orange County, went to Culpeper County, and then went to Spotsylvania. And I can tell you, Greene County, out in the western part of our district, had a line out the door of about 20 people deep outside of the Greene County office. I mean, that was at 9:15 this morning. It was amazing to see. And then we had our tent set up across the street, and all those voters that were coming in and voting walked right over our tent, shook our hands and said, let's do this thing. And I'll tell you, whether it was in Greene County, whether it was in Orange County, whether it was in Culpeper County, Culpeper was wild. They had a whole bunch of people on the side of the street with the entire ticket signs waving them. There's about 15 people, and people are going up and down Main Street honking their horns. It was awesome to see. But I'll tell you, when voters are coming in, after they came back out, they shook my hand, and the two things they said is, we're feeling it right now. We're feeling it, Derrick. Everyone's feeling the pinch, Vince. I mean, everyone's feeling it in their pocketbooks, and I think that's what people are going into this election looking at is, was I better off 4 years ago than I am today? And so, look, I mean, this comes down to dollar and cents. It's about putting food on the table, and I think that right now they see what we're talking about. While, again, my opponent, he just keeps talking about his past. He talks about just the fact that all he talks about is the former President Donald Trump. That's all he talks about. Where, again, we're focused on the future, and people see that, and it's going to show here in November.
Derrick, the kind of the logistics of the race, what does the money fight look like between you and Eugene Vindman? Eugene Vindman is, as a Trump derangement syndrome candidate, does have something of a national profile on the left. Does that help him at all in his fundraising?
Yeah, I'm sure it probably does, Vince. But here's the difference between him and I. We're going to be pulling voters out that arguably might have not have voted in primaries or midterms or what have you. Right. I think what makes me starkly different from him is I'm going to bring a voter base to this, not only from the go and do anything, but we're bringing people out that are my cousins, are my people that I went to middle school and elementary school who might consider themselves independent voters. And they're like, okay, well, the ticket is the ticket, but I've known Anderson since he was 6 years old. I used to wrestle with him. I used to go to his mom's restaurant. So I think we're going to bring people to the table that otherwise wouldn't. And then the other side of it too, Vince, we're doing a lot of things that are free. You know, we're going to forums. We're going to on the radio. We're going out to the places that necessarily Republicans might not necessarily be favored, and we're talking to people. And when you talk to people and you start talking about kitchen table items, you're talking about things that everyone is being affected by. And look, I said this on Monday at one of our forums. I said, look, all of you are looking at me in this audience, looking at who you're going to vote for your next congressman. I will be quite frank with you. When you go to the gas station, when you go to the grocery store, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a moderate, an independent. You don't get a special discount. You don't get it at the gas pump. And so at the end of the day, we need to look at common sense solutions to that problem. And being able to be out in prevalent, I mean, we were at 4 different counties today alone, Vince. You can't pay for that. You can't pay for the candidate to actually be out there and hitting the pavement. I think that's really what's going to be the changing factor in this race.
And can you talk a little bit more about that get out the vote push in these days ahead of the election? Now that we're in the midst of election season, obviously I have seen as well a lot of energy at the polls today, and I hope it is sustained with each passing day of early voting. What does it take to get out the vote, to get people to actually show up to those polls?
Well, it's going to take things like this, Vince. People that are on their car ride home right now from work that are listening to the radio, they're like, early voting started already? I mean, we need to let people know. I think word of mouth is going to be huge. I encourage folks, your listeners, Vince, that are talking right now, one, they can go to our website if they have any questions. It's DerrickAnderson.com, that's DERRICK, Anderson.com/vote, and they can find their early voting location. They can find the times and hours for their voting location. But I think the biggest thing is word of mouth. You know, when you go vote, call 10 people, text 10 people, post it on your social media. Let people know, because everyone knows what's going on at the presidential, but at the Senate and at these congressional races, you know, they're a lot more local. So folks need to post stuff on their social media, reshare stuff on social media to let them know who the candidate is that they think is going to best represent them. And that's really what's going to happen. But, I mean, I heard your show earlier, Vince. I mean, people are coming out. I think you mentioned something about maybe even being up in Fairfax or something like that.
Yeah, this morning.
What we saw today was wild. Like a line out at 9:15, early voting day 1 in Greene County. And Culpeper, you know, when we were out there, people were walking in droves to go early vote. In Orange County, the parking lot was full. I mean, this is truly impressive that I think not only are people who really want to see change, I think Republicans are comfortable with early voting now, so they're going in and voting. So, again, I can't emphasize enough that word of mouth, putting stuff on your social media, and telling folks to get out and vote is truly going to be the deciding factor, not only at the top of the ticket, but all the way down here at the congressional level. And you know, Vince, it'd be an honor. I can't say this enough, how much of an honor it would be to not only represent the 7th District, but represent the district that raised me.
It's pretty cool. Well, best of luck, as always. Derrick Anderson, we'll talk to you more as election season moves along, and thank you very much. Again, how can people get in touch with you, Derrick?
Yeah, they can go to DerrickAnderson.com. That's our website. If folks want to sign up to door knock, to go write postcards, to make phone calls, all of the information is on there. You can sign up to help out the campaign. We'll need everyone's help. We need all troops on deck. But we're going to keep pushing all the way through this. We'll be door knocking pretty much every single Saturday, Vince. So if you got a Saturday you want to come down, you're more than welcome to.
All right. Make sure you wear a smartwatch or something. Track those steps, Derrick. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you today, sir. That's Derrick Anderson, Republican nominee in Virginia's 7th Congressional District. And